Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Steve. Today I'm joined by Ted from TNT Laserworks. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well, sir. How you doing?
Good, good. I forget what convention was it. PAX Unplugged that we originally connected at.
Yes, sir. PAX Unplugged 2019.
Yeah, good times back in the before times
Before
when we went places and hung out with our friends. So, first of all, thanks for coming on today, and I want to take a moment to let you kind of introduce yourself and what TNT Laserworks is and what you guys are doing over there.
okay, so I'm Ted, the owner of TNT Laserworks, and since about 2015, we've been making products basically to just have more fun with gaming. So originally, it actually started out for me to have a really good excuse to make terrain for Warhammer 40,000 for myself at home. And then of course I took some of that stuff to the hobby store. Some people saw it and said, "Hey, this is cool. You should make more of those." And so I sold some terrain initially, but eventually I got involved with the Nova Open Foundation. They're a wargaming convention here on the East Coast, and the one of the people who run that convention, his name is Mike Brandt. He does some play testing for Games Workshop, and so he during the development of 8th edition asked me to come up with a device that could track points, but also not easily moved. So he wanted a dial that couldn't wasn't free spinning like a cardboard dial or something. And so he asked me to develop something like that. And so after a few months of tinkering around, I did. And then from that kind of idea came the command dial and all of the dial stuff that we do. So the large majority of the things that we sell now are these acrylic custom dials.
So that the idea is anything needs tracking, you guys have a product to track that with.
Yep, exactly. So these acrylic dials can be used for tracking. Initially, it was for command points in Warhammer 40,000, and from there it's just kind of expanded to tracking hit points in role-playing games. Tracking spell points on sorcerers. I mean, just all whatever stuff you need to track in games. Levels in Munchkin. Just any game that's like has a slider somewhere in it that's kind of annoying. You can replace it with a dial. One of the big ones that's actually pretty popular. Gloomhaven comes with a set of cardboard dials, and if anybody's played with those, you spin one and it spins both, and it's hard to keep track of stuff. So we make a plastic version of that, and the big claim to fame is the numbers all click into place, so it won't spin unless you make it spin.
So have you heard back from people that are kind of like using these products in ways that you hadn't anticipated?
Yeah, actually, we had a lady call us up and order like 10 of our triple dials. They have digits 0 through 9 on all three of the dials. So you can count from 0 to 999 on one dial, or on one device. And she ordered these for her knitting group. I guess they use them to count rows and crochet or something like that. So
Oh wow.
yeah, so like keeping track of your numbers of rows and crochet, I guess, or something. So yeah, there's definitely been some people who have used them for
The
uh
bigger question is, how did the knitters find you?
I think so to be honest, I think there's a lot more female gamers nowadays than there used to be. And
Yeah,
I think knitting is like a real kind of like I don't know, like throwback to kind of what your grandmother used to do kind of thing, right? And so I think
yeah.
it's kind of become a popular like hobby. So it kind of didn't surprise us, I guess. My wife is a big knitter too, so she makes her own sweaters and rugs and stuff. So when it came up, it was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess it does. When I think about it, I do know quite a few gamers that also knit. I don't know. So the knitting is the one with the needles, or there's also the
Don't
hook,
don't
right?
ask me. I have no idea.
Yeah, well, I know one of them. One of the groups calls themselves hookers,
Okay,
because of the method they use or whatever.
okay. Yeah, I know the
For
ball
it.
of yarn over here and a sweater pops out over here. I don't know anything
Yeah,
about the process. So
that 100% tracks. It's like sorcery or witchcraft.
hmm hmm
They kind of like wave magic wands around. They have their material components, and boom, clothing,
How
blanket.
better. So yeah, we have the dial stuff. That's kind of a large portion of what we do. We have a few other fun things that we've done. I don't know. I've got some stuff sitting in front of me here. One
Yeah,
of them,
show it off.
one of them that pops up that people really like is the miniature mounts.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
I just make these really inexpensive just mounts that are the right size for doing miniature battles, on the tabletop. Um, and so these are, I have horses and wolves and velociraptors, and I think I got a Pegasus sitting here. So just kind of a fun. Again, this is just me playing at home. I think, what did I do? I got a riding bull from somewhere, and so I made this little. Actually, it's right here. This is the bull I use on my tabletop, and I put my character on it, and of course my players are like, hey, you should make one for me, and then I make one for them, and then they're like, hey, you should bring those to convention, and of course it just blows up from there. So
So,
um,
so is that how it like really started? Like you just making stuff for your table?
yeah, the base for everything I make, and this is why I'm making stuff for Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer 40,000, is because this is what I want to use for what I'm doing, right? For the game I'm playing. I find it useful. And then other people look at it and say, oh, can you, make it bigger, make it smaller, have, more dials on it or something like that. But yeah, I mean, this is the stuff that I find useful and fun. And that's where a lot of the new stuff comes from. And then a big portion is people taking a look at what I've already made and say, I see you have a riding bull, sir. Can you make a riding velociraptor? I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that.
So do you stock like the mounts, or are those kind of custom things?
You know what? I think what we had done with them is sell them at conventions, but conventions haven't been happening, so I'm not sure if they're on the web page at all or not. I have to go look. I should pull those
You're
up
like, I
there.
don't know. I just run this stuff here.
Yeah, yeah. I just make the stuff, right? I just design and make it. I'm not involved with full
I
stuff.
do not see any riding bulls on the
All right,
website.
I'll have to check that out and put them up there. But yeah, so that's kind of just a fun little little thing that we've been making and selling for a few bucks, and people love them. So
Yeah. So what has been like the most fun thing to make?
the most fun thing to make. Um, so I think it's a piece of terrain for Warhammer 40,000. I think I have it on my website. It's like an obelisk tower that is cracked, and it's got a piece of clear acrylic through the center of it, and then pieces are glued onto that to make it look like it's cracked into pieces and floating. And that took way too much time to actually develop that thing and make it, but it
Yeah.
looks super cool when it's on the tabletop. So that's like one of the just straight out of my head, let's see if it works kind of things that I tried, and it paid off, and it looks pretty cool. And I've had a few people order them. But yeah, they are pretty cool. I think it's under custom terrain if you're looking on the website.
I am kind of poking around.
Yeah. So that
Um,
was a fun one to make. Um, let's see some of the other ones.
you
I
got like a
do.
whole um a whole set for like buildings and bridges and roads and stuff
Yep.
for our modern gamers. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. There's a whole road set up there. I know where the picture is. I think it's on the just on the home page if you scroll down.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely saw the tower on the
Okay.
towers
Cool.
on the
Cool.
home page.
Yep. That's
Uh,
where it is, right there on the home page.
yeah. So, do you plan on going into doing more terrain?
So probably not.
Yeah. Is everything handmade, or are you
Yeah.
able to make it and then kind of like mass produce it?
So it's all handmade. So like the not all of it. The miniature mounts come
Mhm.
like unassembled, and then people can glue them together when they get them for shipping. Um, but the dials and stuff, yeah, they're all handmade here at home.
That's tough because that's a lot of work.
It is, yeah. And that's one of the reasons why terrain is not like such a great thing. Is there's two things I have to do to make terrain work. Either I have to build it, which takes a lot of time,
Yeah.
and then ship it off, which is kind of expensive when it's all built, or I have to make instructions that are nice and clear enough for somebody else to build what my brain splued out. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, how do you make instructions for this thing? So,
That yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing too. Like writing instructions. I have a lot of like
Yep.
tabletop board game friends, and that's always like the big thing is like writing the instructions to the game
Yep.
in a way that's easily digestible and people can make it play the way it's supposed to play.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So writing instructions, like I started taking 3D CAD classes so that I could make like 3D images, like a Lego instruction where you like, put these two pieces together with
Yeah.
arrows and stuff. And it was starting to take way too much time. I was like, hey, maybe train's not my thing. So,
So how long have you been doing the accessories?
so really, it's been about 3 years now, I think, is what I've been like. The command dial thing has really taken off. Like people use it for so many different games. People have collections of them. I have, some people that order one for their rogue and one for their ranger and one for their monk, and it's like, you know, it's one of those things where people just see a use for it and a value in it. So it's that's definitely the thing that we've been making the most of.
People do like to customize. They do I definitely have played and play with players that are like, oh, I need a specific set of dice for this character.
Oh yeah, new character, new dice. That's
Yeah.
the thing. That's not. I'm in the same boat. If I'm making a
See,
new character, I got new set of dice.
not me, man. I just go to the satchel of dice and reach in and pull out a bunch.
Yep. When I'm DMing, whatever's closest is what gets rolled. But when I'm playing a character, it's yeah, new set of dice.
I had this bizarre ritual when we game where, well, I used to. I guess I still do, but when we're in person, it'll come back. Where I take all my dice and just dump them out and sort them. And I don't know why. Like, because one, I don't need all the dice.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah.
Uh, and two, like I could probably just get one of these dice bags that have all the pouches in it. And
Yeah.
have them sort it, but I don't know. There's something about at the beginning of the game dumping the dice and
So
then sorting them.
I definitely know what you're talking about because my wife is we're gonna call her a collector because
Okay.
hoarding is bad, right? So she's a collector of dice. And she has, I mean, every conceivable version of dice you can imagine. Like you go to Gen Con and you see the Chessex thing, she just walks around it and just says, got it, got it, got it, got it, got it, got
Oh yeah, yeah. See,
it.
I
And
don't actually know what I have because
oh man, she's got them all. She knows all the names of them and all that stuff.
yeah, I am not that. I'm just like, oh, there's another thing that's a pound of dice. I'll get that, or
Yeah,
the dice that I pick up. But like, it's just like so. There's the
yeah.
bag of
So
devouring.
she has the same bag.
Yeah.
The same bag. That's the one she takes to conventions. That's just the stuff she's picked out for conventions go in that bag. Then the rest of
Yeah.
it stays at home.
I guess there's like 3 pounds of dice for.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't even know, right?
yeah,
Because there's the bag of devouring. There's the Heward's handy harvest sack. There's a bag of holding, and I feel like, and they all like come with a pound of dice.
yeah, yep.
And I feel like I bought them all, and then I feel at some point like I just bought the bag of like it's a pound or 2 pounds of dice,
Yeah, yeah.
and then there's all the dice that I mean, like if I go to a store to play or something, and I'm like really not going to spend money, I'll just buy a set of dice because I'm using their space or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've been at conventions and I'm like, oh, I didn't bring any dice with me, and I'm gonna play. So
Yep.
let me get some dice.
Oh yeah, she's got all her dice, and she's like, if we're fighting over water, they have to be blue dice. If she's casting a magic missile, it's got to be a purple dice. If it's gonna,
Yeah, yeah. I'm not.
all, she's like, it's all in front of her, and she's just like, whatever she's doing, the action, whatever the role, whatever the dice is being used for, determines what color it needs to be. So
Yeah, I'm not that coordinated. I just like so I sit down on my spot and I take my dice bag and I dump it on its side, and it becomes this
yeah,
the dice bag of like the cornucopia, and then I begin sorting them by what they are, D20s, D4s, or whatever, and just have piles of each.
yep, yep,
And then it gives me the ability to fire particular dice when they're just not working for me.
yep. That's actually another thing that I have done in the past. I have made dice shrines, um, where you can have if you have a dice that's done something miraculous, you can um, build a little shrine for it. Actually, I got it. This is
Oh,
mine
that
from.
sounds cool because I've heard of plenty of dice jails, but I don't think I've ever heard of a dice shrine.
So he's a little dusty here, but
Yeah.
but this guy, this is mine from Gen Con 20, or I'm sorry, 50, and it's going to be impossible to read this on the screen, but
Mm.
it's got a little holder to hold the dice, and it's got the story of what the dice did. And I swear to God, I told this dice, if it rolled for me properly, I would build it a shrine, and it did. So it's so that is one of my little inventions that other people have seen that said, oh, that's pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
So I mean, like, I make custom. Actually, it's on my homepage. If you scroll down right past the towers, that's the same one.
Yeah. So do you do a lot of custom orders then? Where I mean, everything's custom, but I mean, where people are like, I wanted this specific thing.
Yes. So it is a good portion of the stuff we sell on our website really are ideas from other people who have said, hey, I like what you're doing here, but can it do this or that? I've done for businesses. I've made custom stuff you give away when you win, trophies. I've done custom trophies. And so when I'm not here, when I'm not doing this job, I have a day job. I work for NASA, and I make dry boxes for lasers sometimes. So that's kind of a fun thing that like happens on the side. Like, hey, we've got this laser. It needs to run at like minus 2 degrees Celsius. Can you put a dry box around it? I'm like, okay.
Oh, that's what those are for. I saw the section on your website. So you're like a rocket scientist?
So I'm an electrical engineer. You could probably say I'm a laser engineer for the most part, but yeah, I build space lasers for NASA.
So if you were on Big Bang Theory, Sheldon would make fun of you.
He might. So I'm one of those guys. So yeah, it's fun. There's a lot.
That's really cool. You're way smarter than me.
Nah, right place, right time, and I smile nice. So, but yeah.
How long have you been? How long have you been employed by NASA?
So I don't actually work for NASA. I work for a subcontractor that builds stuff for NASA. So it's just easier to say NASA than.
Yeah. That's not. Never mind. You're not nearly as cool as you were 30 seconds ago.
Yeah. So I build stuff for NASA. I don't actually work for NASA.
Yeah.
But yeah, about 15 years.
Nice. Yeah. That's always precarious, being a subcontractor for government things like that.
Yep.
I know because my wife worked for the joint base here in Jersey, Fort Dix, for like a decade, and then it was like, oh, your job is just gone now.
Yep. Yeah, things come and go pretty quick. We've had a couple of programs where it's like you're in the middle of building stuff and they're like, nope, we're done. Mothball that. We'd like it all put into little totes and sent to us.
Oh.
You've got a week. Oh, okay.
Okay, next thing.
It happens. And other times we do cool stuff. We spent 7 years building a satellite for NASA, ISAT-2.
Yeah.
It's up in space. It's been up there since September of last year, and it's been collecting data on the thickness of ice sheets and vegetation growth around the world. Like, it's pretty cool.
So Ted is yelling at me for not being nice to you. It's all good naturedly.
Yeah.
So Brian wants to know, how would you improve Eldritch Blast flavor wise with your laser knowledge?
Eldritch Blast with my laser knowledge.
Brian, I think you're confused. Clearly, Eldritch Blast and lasers are very different, because lasers.
I would say instead of pushing people around, you blow a hole through them so you can hit the guy behind them.
Yeah, like lasers cut their heat, based off of light and heat, which seems really different than Eldritch Blast to me. Because Eldritch Blast is a force attack, so it's concussive in nature. I don't know, but you're bringing into being, maybe I like to think of it as kind of like a line, like a cylinder of force, but I think they're very different.
Yeah, I always think it's just like a fireball that's just black with purple edges. So.
Oh wow.
That's what I think of.
Yeah, yeah. Eldritch Blast is a beam. Says sleepily gone. So how's your gaming going in the end times here?
So actually, our group converted to playing online, like I'm sure most people did. They're all people who are local, so we used to, play face to face all the time. But we've converted to playing online, and it's pretty consistent. Like everybody's able to make it. It's not like everybody has a ton of stuff to do. Um, so our gaming's continued pretty much unstopped. Our usual DM had to take a little bit of a break to deal with family stuff for a while, so I got a chance to DM the group for a while, and that was a lot of fun. And now we're switching back. We were doing Avernus, so we're going back to Avernus this next session. But between the break, I was running first edition modules converted to fifth edition.
Yeah, yeah.
So we had done Into the Borderlands. They're close to the end of Isle of Dread, and then next would be the Barrier Peaks. If we pick
So were you using the ones from Goodman Games, or were you converting them?
Yep. Nope. Using the Goodman game ones.
And how did you like those conversions?
I mean, I thought they're cool. I'm not like super critical about um, trying to stay faithful to like the original, because I mean they put the original in there, right? There's a scan of the original in there.
Okay.
First edition version, and so it's there. You can go. I mean, you can literally flip page back and forth and see what they changed, right? And I think when I play the stuff, I'm kind of making up my own stuff anyway. So I mean, if I open up a room and it says there's supposed to be 4 orcs in there, and I'm like, well, these guys are 7th level, 4 orcs are dumb. We'll make it 4 orders, right? I mean, I don't have any problem fixing, I guess you could say, what you would consider balance and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, making the tweaks where they need to be.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that kind of stuff, right? And but they've been good. I think it's fun. They leave a lot of the first edition flavor, I'd use air quotes, but flavor in there. Mm-hmm. So there's plenty of stupid traps that don't do anything, and rooms that are empty, and random tables for everything. Like it's all left in there.
Yeah,
because that's just how first edition was, right? Like 25% of the rooms have stuff in them. Like the rest are just, it's a bedroom, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
So if that's it, and it doesn't, I'm making it sound really not fun to play, but it is fun to play when you've gotten used to the way modules are written nowadays, and it's kind of like everything's action paced. There's like some kind of like railroad storyline you're supposed to be following. That's kind of no matter what you do, the giant's going to get away because he's supposed to take the crown to the someplace else, or whatever the storyline might be. These ones are much more open-ended, so there's no like big goal for it. So especially like Isle of Dread, it's just like, here's a giant island, go investigate it. There's no real point to this.
It's full of dread.
It's full of dread. There's just bad stuff here. You've got dinosaurs and the ancient evils, and that's if you want to earn some gold, go here. Otherwise, don't bother.
Yeah, I mean, modern gaming is a lot more narrative.
Yep.
And which means there's more of a point to everything you do.
Yep.
In theory, compared to early editions, it's like, here's some interesting places to explore.
Oh yeah, the first edition modules, most of them start out with you standing at the door.
Yeah.
Like I'm standing in the door of Castle Ravenloft. Why am I here? Who are these people around me? I don't know. None of that stuff's figured out for you. It's just like adventure starts, there's a door in front of you, and it may go up in a tower, it may go underground. We're not real sure.
Yeah, I mean, and there was this weird like betwixt where, as a gamer, you're used to that, but then you're trying to explore and figure out those other things, right? As a DM, which made your job so much harder and more intimidating, right?
Oh yeah,
Where
the first edition modules, a lot of them were like 32 pages plus the front and back cover. So that was the extent of it. So there's plenty of places where they're like, and this door opens up into the town of Greensville, and there's no map, there's no explanation of who's there. There's not there's like there might be a trader here, and that's it. The DM figures out the rest.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now now as GMs we have a lot more tools than we did before. And matter of fact, some of this stuff they're finally like addressing in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, with they've finally included the session 0, but it's been something that we've been doing for a while, I think, as gamers, and more modern gaming. You have all these resources with the internet.
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
people can communicate much easier together as far as like, they can type up their backstory and email it to the whole group, and then people can read it over the next week or whatever, and get that stuff hashed out. Um, the other thing I like to do is basically give the group a reason why they're there. So for like the Curse of Strahd that I was running, I basically just said, okay, you're all agents from some religious organization. You've been grouped up to be like the super team to come stop these werewolves.
yeah.
That's why you're together. Now you can all go pick your religion and what you do for them and that kind of stuff. But kind of give them the starting point.
So when we first started Nerdarchy was when I kind of like started paying attention to the internet when it came to gaming. I've always been like kind of self-contained, right? So as I started exploring what other people were talking about and doing in the spaces, like my mind was blown when I heard a GM go, "You don't have to put your players together and figure out why they're working together and get the party together. You can let them do that." I was
Yep.
like, oh, it was such an epiphany.
Yep. You can't end up with some of those weird situations where you have like the cowardly monk who really shouldn't even be like out in the street, much less delving in a dungeon and
I
wants
feel
to
like
run away from everything. You're like, why are you here?
I feel like you're still gonna get a bunch of that, but
Yeah,
now it's like, with with the paradigm shift, you can be like, okay, it's not my problem, it's yours. You figure it out or don't
yeah,
adventure. I don't care. But if your character's not doing anything, there's no reason for you to keep coming to the
yeah.
table.
Don't bother me with this narrative stuff. I'm trying to count up my CR on the encounters.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, like, so we've talked about this often, but like, in one of our earlier games, I was GMing, and we did have like this farm boy turned wizard's apprentice librarian character, very original name Giles, um,
Nice.
who didn't want to adventure and was like doom and gloom, and but his master was like, hey, you need experience, so you have to go out into the world and learn stuff, and I'm not going to teach you anymore until you do. So like begrudgingly he would adventure and do these things,
Oh, that's it.
and the character hated it, but the player never made it an obstacle to adventuring. So like that's the way to do it. But the opposite of that would be the player would go, oh, my character wouldn't do that. And then it's like, well, you need to find something your character will do, or there's no reason for you to continue showing up.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Can't hide behind the door every time, right? You gotta.
Yeah, so like you can play those things, like you can like. So I guess my point is, you can play the cowardly monk who shouldn't be diving into dungeons, and there's probably definitely a way for a player to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, right. Like they don't have a choice for some reason.
Yeah, yeah, and still make it like they can do all the narrative role playing parts of it, and not want to do it, but still be kind of doing it, and then it becomes, instead of becoming annoying to the group and the GM, it becomes interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So do
I've
you?
got one player right now who's her character is a warrior who has left her village to help find other people to help save her village. So her village is under attack. And so she's out looking for people to help her, right? And so there's always kind of this background thing in her mind where she's like, okay, we're going into this dungeon to look for magic items that can help my village, or I'm adventuring with this group to make friends with them so they'll come back and help me, that kind of thing. Always kind of just like,
their
why am I
character
doing this is always there.
their character is gonna be so ready when they get back there in like 3 years.
Yeah, I think the last thing she was doing was she was training some. I had her set up a training camp for some wyverns, so she's going to take some wyverns back with her to her village. So
The question is, will there still be a village left?
yeah, right. We'll see, right? They've been at a war for a long time, so there's no.
We will avenge them.
So yeah, some fun stuff like that going on. It's just kind of one of those like background story arc things that are constantly kind of coming up as an excuse to do things.
So, do you find yourself enjoying DMing more or playing more?
That's a good question. I think I like to do. I'm going to go with both. The DM thing is it's really fun to just create your own stuff. Like, I mean, I'm not saying like create your own worlds and that kind of thing, but even when you take a written adventure and just and make it your own and play through things and deal with the reactions of players. I mean, the page says, you know, this is room X and it has these traps in it and this monster. The players are always going to do something completely different than you think they're supposed to. And that's a lot of fun to deal with, to come up with stuff on the fly and make fun encounters and things like that. But there's also a lot of work that goes into that, and a lot of pressure too. Like, I mean, when I'm a player, I can kind of take a night off if I don't feel like playing D&D, and everybody still plays. But as a
Yeah.
DM, if you say, "Oh, I don't feel good tonight, I'm going to take the night off," nobody plays, right? So, so
It it does make it tough.
yeah, you feel a little more locked into. You got to keep the schedule, and so there's trade-offs to both. Being a player is kind of fun, in that you get to experience kind of the leveling up aspect, seeing your character grow, you know, getting new items and leveling and that kind of thing. You know, choosing what paths to take with them if you're going to do multi-classing and feats and things. So it's always fun to have something like that. And the characters I play are generally, you know, like 2, 3, 4 years we've been playing the same characters. You know what I mean? So there's a long, you know, like we'll switch campaigns and things sometimes in the middle, but we've been playing these characters for years, right? So it's fun to see the stuff grow and things. And as a DM, you can spend a lot of time prepping stuff, but when you're done, you're done. You know, they're not coming back to the Isle of Dread anytime soon. So,
Yeah.
there's no leveling up the Isle of Dread. You know what I mean?
Maybe. I feel like
Maybe.
there's definitely some. Well, you know what? Temple of Elemental Evil was that though, wasn't it? Like first, it was the original site was Hamlet,
Yes. Yep.
the adventure, and then you go back and then kind of like so.
Yeah, you do. Yep.
So sometimes you do level level up the Isle of Dread.
True. Yeah, you can go that route. It happens. It happens, but it's not usual. I mean, if you're doing a good storyline, I don't know, maybe Avernus is a good example or not, but you do have some bad guys that show up and you kind of constantly see them. You know what I mean? And as a DM, you can use them as your level up person, I guess. But yeah, it's kind of both. I'll say it's both.
Yeah. So for us, like we used to like be like sticklers and Die Hard, and like we would have DMs that wouldn't run if all the players weren't there, and they're like so worried about the story and the continuality, and eventually just got to a point where it's like, what, I don't care about any of that anymore. I just want to play, and like we can make up a reason why players aren't there or whatever, or
Yep.
think of something.
Yeah, we
And,
definitely do the same thing.
and we did that for a while, but then you know what I realized, that no one actually cares. Like we think we care about that, and you think the players care about that, but once they start getting into the game and playing, they just play, right? They don't give another thought about the player's character for the player that's not there. Um, I've gone and like, all right, I got this plan and this elaborate idea, and I forgot to execute it honestly, and my players never are like, hey, where's so and so's character,
Oh,
right?
I totally agree with that one. I've had some DMing situations where I had a player, like I had a haunted house set up, right? And they're supposed to kick through the front door and go through this haunted house, right?
Yeah,
No, they decided to climb to the top floor of the house and go through the window, which of course is like the end, right?
yeah,
so,
yeah.
so like on the fly, you gotta like switch it all up, like have the
Yeah,
whole
the flip,
dungeon,
yeah,
like
flip
basically
everything.
flip the whole house over, and then and try to make it make sense, and then but you know like they don't see that, right? Like it's to them it's seamless. It just happened. That was the way the house was laid out. For whatever reason, the bad guy was in the living room in front of the front door,
Yeah.
and that was just it was just how the house was set up.
I'm a big fan of it. It hasn't happened. It doesn't. It hasn't happened until it happens. And I know, because we've been doing this a while. We've done 3,000 going on 4,000 videos, which means it's a lot of comments. There's definitely DMs out there that do not like that, and players that do not like that. But I'm
Yeah,
like, it's like whatever. Like,
I don't like penalizing player creativity, right?
yeah,
Like I don't, and penalizing isn't even the right word. I mean, just it would be easy to say in that situation that the window's locked and it's unbreakable, right? And just make them go through the front door. But at the same time, uh, I think it makes Dungeons and Dragons a little more fun when your decisions matter. You know what I mean? Like you're not just like playing the character in a movie. You're getting to make the movie.
Yeah.
So when they come up with something I didn't think of, that's on me as a DM to make exciting and fun, instead of just saying no. Right? It's yes, but not no.
Figuring how to make it work. And, sometimes you do plan a session to go a certain way and the players do their own thing.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
you
yeah.
just kind of go with it. And
I've had plenty of times where I've got that cool map all laid out, ready to go with all the miniatures, and then last minute I'm hand drawing something out on a piece of paper because they decided to go a completely different direction that didn't even involve that encounter. But I spent all the time setting up.
do you laser cut those maps into terrain?
I haven't, no, but it's definitely something I could do. So I've actually thought about making some like plaques and stuff for my players. That would be kind of like a memorable moment from their characters' lives or something that would be engraved on some wood. I thought that would look pretty cool, but haven't gotten around to that yet.
Oh, that would be cool. If we played
Yeah.
with one DM when you finish a campaign, oftentimes you would bring gifts to the players and kind of like
Yep.
sometimes they're just tailored to the players, sometimes they're tailored to the character, and sometimes they were just random.
Well,
But
we're a little bit. Our group's a little bit spoiled. One of our players is a published illustrator.
okay,
So she does character portraits for our whole group, and I mean she's like a real artist, right? So I mean it looks amazing,
yeah.
right? Like she's really good at doing these things, and so she spoils us kind of making. She also paints miniatures, so everybody in the group has like fantastically painted miniatures for their characters, and then we also have like character portraits and then full like the whole party together portrait. Like it's crazy.
Does she do work in the industry or different?
um I know it's something she's interested in doing, but I don't know if she's set up for it yet, so I could ask her. I'll you
Yeah.
know
Well, there's definitely more money elsewhere. So
Yeah, I mean,
there's
like
that.
she does book illustrations, so she's got several children's books that she's published.
Oh, cool.
Or yeah, her name Stephanie Fliss is her name, so she's an illustrator.
Nice. Like, so Sarah Dallinger had done the cover of Out of the Box Encounters for us, and she's been on the show a few times, and we've chatted. She does some cool things. Um, but like, she actually had like a really good illustrating job. She would do medical textbooks, and, like, just have a job that she could show up to, and she ended up quitting because she was like bored.
Oh
Right?
wow.
And wasn't doing the things that she wanted to do. Um, and which is odd, not odd, but hard because illustrators have a tough time of it. There's a lot of them that are really good and finding work out there. But
Hmm.
yeah, I know that there's a lot of talent out there, and getting them, keeping them in the RPG communities can be tough sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine how much time she must spend painting a miniature, and then she charges like a small amount of money for it, and you're like, that's can't like you had to spend way too much time on that. That
Yeah,
can't be
yeah.
that
Oh,
worth
I've got friends that do that and for commission. I'm like, oh, that's a
Yeah.
terrible. It's a terrible business model because they just put so much work into it,
Yep.
you
Yeah.
know, and to make it worthwhile.
But it's beautiful stuff, and man, everybody's got one that's like a treasured piece of artwork. So
Oh, your group is so lucky.
yeah, we are.
Although we have had Ted like 3D print us stuff and paint us minis and stuff in the past though. He's pretty awesome like that
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
fun. I mean, our usual DM is big into using miniatures. He buys all the pre-painted, WizKids stuff and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he loves using miniatures for everything, and so that's a big part of our gaming group is using miniatures for COVID-19. We've been doing everything online, so of course I'm using maps, right? And I
Yeah.
try my best to take pictures of actual miniatures and put them in there, but usually they just end up being whatever I can find on Google Images. So
We so what Ted started doing is he started setting up his terrain on a separate camera.
oh, that's cool.
And then I mean there's a little bit of a curve, right? Because we're like trying to point to the
Oh
screen.
yeah, trying to tell them like where to move your guy. Like no,
Yeah,
northwest,
yeah.
three
We're
squares,
like, hey, move them
west.
over here, and you're like, you have no idea where they're pointing.
I even get it. I'm doing everything in like Corel Draw 2D stuff, right? And so I
Yeah.
even get it when I'm moving their character portrait around the map. Like no, the other way.
So I mean, obviously, there's all the virtual TTTs that you can use. I think I threw an extra T in there, but and that works. I've been I've been messing around with Dungeon Fog is one of our sponsors, and they've got some great mapping software where they but they also have the Fog of War feature. So I'll put like a token on the board for the players and just kind of move it around so they can see like the setup, the layout, and then the last time I'm like, well, I guess I got these other tokens. I could just put the tokens for the monsters on the board as well, so you guys have kind of an idea. So, and so there's a thing too where they like you can send a link, and then they can kind of open it up with the Fog of War feature already in place, and they can't see anything till I do it. So I don't know. Maybe we'll evolve to the point where they'll get they'll each get their link and they'll have their board to move their things around on.
Yeah, I
I
mean
don't know.
they're super powerful, but I haven't taken the time to figure them out, right? So
Yeah. So
I I do 2D CAD stuff because of my design work for my business. So I can throw a map together, find all the pictures, throw it in, scale it all up, and have it set up in 15 minutes. With
so
a fog of war that I can delete off as we're moving through.
oh yeah. So what they got a blueprint feature over there where you can do that, where you can take another map so you build on top of it to kind of copy it using their assets.
Oh, okay, cool. The one that I saw that I thought would be really cool. I don't remember which simulator did it. Maybe all of them do, but it would show the players a fog of war where you have like blanked out black areas, but the DM could see everything underneath it, like transparent wise, like it
Yeah,
knew
yeah.
stuff that's around. That was really cool. I thought that I haven't
Yeah,
figured
most of the VTGs do that. Also, like they have dynamic lighting and stuff.
out.
Although, I did see one time we were running a game and the DM had everything set up, and everyone grabbed their token like at the same time and just went in different directions. Which was, as a player, I was like, wow, I'm glad I'm not the DM right now.
No, there is definitely a penalty for splitting the party, whether you know it or not. Right? It's coming. So don't
Well,
split the
yeah.
party.
What is it even? Wasn't even that? And
The, the
everyone was
penalty
like, "What's over here?" At the same time, they didn't go far.
the penalty might even be so mundane as you have to sit and do nothing for 20 minutes while I go person to person and describe the room. So
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
that might be a penalty.
But well, I guess the big thing was not so much they were doing it. It was just because everyone had control of their token, and because we're doing it via a Zoom call and using the virtual tabletop, what it did was like it allowed the players to interact with everything before the GM was like, "What are you doing? You're doing this." Where everyone was able to just grab their thing at the same time and peel off. So it was just like chaos.
It's one of those situations where because you can do it, you must do it, right? So
Yeah, yeah. And then
that's
and also like that group was younger. There was a lot of younger people in it. So instead of just waiting, they're just like, I'm just gonna move my thing over here.
I can say one of the benefits of playing online is I like to go find artwork online that I can show
Uh,
the players like while we're playing. So it's like, you step over the hill and in front of you you see a valley that looks like this, and I can bring up a picture of, some valley that looks like it's burnt out or something. And that's been kind of cool, being able to show like visuals with everything.
I
And I
know.
have a druid. I have a druid that likes to shape change into everything. So I'll just go online, find a picture of an animal real quick, shrink it down, throw it in the map while we're playing real time. So they're like,
Nice.
now you are an eagle. Now you are, a polar bear.
Our concept director loves Pinterest
Oh, okay, yeah,
for and creating boards for games and characters and stuff like that as well.
that's cool.
Yeah. Even before, so even kind of before we played like a mini series with Esper the Bard, he wasn't using a VTT. He was just like screen sharing some. I don't know if it was like a Photoshop or if it was a mapping software. And basically, he would do the same thing you decided: just grab an image, change it if someone like wild shaped or whatever. Most of the VTTs you can do that too. It's like
Okay,
you can just grab the animal token and throw it to them, and they can use it. So it's it's a lot easier to find a game nowadays than it was before. That's for sure.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, we have our group. I started out by I'd actually won a copy of the fifth edition Player's Handbook at Gen Con. and I had not played Dungeon Dragons since like third edition, so I'd kind of been out of it for quite a while. Um, and I just walked into my local hobby store. They have Friday night Dungeons and Dragons games, and my wife decided to come with me. She used to hang out with us when we played Dungeons and Dragons in high school, but she never actually played the game. But she's like, you know what, this sounds like the thing that we're gonna do as a couple, night out kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we walked in our local hobby store, met all these amazing people who play Dungeons and Dragons, and that's how we got our current group, which then we decided to move to our house, just because the hobby store had gotten so crowded that you couldn't hear anything anybody was saying. Like there was a wait list to get into the hobby store to play
Oh
Dungeons and
wow.
Dragons. Oh yeah, they had like 12 tables running, and still there were like when we started, there would be like a table of people and then like two empty tables and a table of people. Like it was just us nerds, right? We're just hanging out playing Dungeons and Dragons. And within a year, the place had filled up completely to the point where they had a wait list, and they were starting to push people from, I think it was Wednesday night as we played Dungeons and Dragons at the hobby store. They started pushing people to Thursdays and Mondays, and like, holy cow, this thing just kind of blew up.
Yeah, my brother had talked about like one of the methods that he kind of used for finding like a home group was um was going to game stores and kind of like poaching the players, and then like moving the game away from the game store to more of
Yeah,
a.
this was definitely like, we wanted to say that it was fun to be in the hobby store. They serve beer there too. So, um, so it was fun to be there, and it was fun to support the store. Um, but at the same time, it just got too crowded. So it was like, what's more important, right? Being here at this hobby store or playing the game. And so we ended up moving it out. But yeah, we played for I think a year or two at the hobby store, like every Wednesday.
Yeah, a lot of ambient noise makes it tough.
Yeah, it does. It was. So
And
we
then you
eventually,
occasionally get like someone will stop to watch your game for a bit, see what's going on, check it out.
yeah, and I mean
Uh,
that's cool. That's how you get people into the game, right? I mean, you can't enjoy a game and be a curmudgeon about showing people what it is and that kind of thing, right? I mean, definitely a cooperative game like this, right? Where it's, if you want the game to live, you got to have people coming in as well as people leaving. So yeah.
yeah, I had been playing the game for probably over 20 years before I ever played in a game store. And then it was just like one of our players also had a group that they played with at a game store, and they invited us to come to that game. And so I played a couple of sessions that way. It's definitely different. I mean, I
Yeah.
definitely I prefer the other way, and it's maybe it's just because that's what I'm used to. Is like we've always played at somebody's house, somebody's kitchen table, or
Yeah,
someone's game room.
that's how I did in high school. It was the same way. Like, you knew a guy who knew the books, and you're like, what are you gonna do on my Friday night? Hey, this guy plays Dungeon Dragons, so let's go over to his place. And yeah,
So
that's how I got into it.
so it sounds like you were at Gen Con, but this sounds like it predates TNT.
Yes.
And you hadn't played D&D for a while. So what were you at Gen Con for?
So Gen Con, my family's kind of spread out around the country, my brothers. So I have an older brother and a younger brother. And as a way to kind of get together, Gen Con's kind of central. So we all have to drive our 8 to 9 hours to get there, but then it's all three of us just hang out for a weekend. So Gen Con turned into the like brother hangout weekend.
Okay.
And that's kind of how I started going to Gen Con, really just to hang out with them originally. And I had played Dungeons and Dragons back in high school and that kind of stuff, but I wasn't really into it anymore.
So what
Um,
would you guys do at the con then? Like were they still avid players or
nope,
all?
nope. So my older brother was our DM back in high school.
Yeah.
So he had some nostalgia for it and had signed up for some D&D stuff, but the rest, myself and my younger brother, did not. We were kind of like, yeah, oh, Dungeon Dragons, that's cool. We used to do that.
So would you
Um,
go for the other tabletop stuff?
yeah, so we
Okay.
have a friend who's been going there since like Gen Con 10 or something, who runs games there. So we played some of his stuff. It's the Northern Virginia Gamers Association, NOVAG. Steve Gibson, he's there every year. They have their guy with the green fez on his head. Um, and so we played some of his games. He's got like Space Hulk, and he has some custom like zombie apocalypse games. And we did Arkham Horror, the card game. We were into that, so we played some of that there. and just checking out the vendors. Which I mean, the first time you go, dude, it's like you could spend days just doing that.
It is
Uh,
a big place. It's like
yeah.
so I actually had not done many conventions. Gen Con 50 was my second convention.
Okay. Yeah.
I had done Origins that year before that, and then gone to Gen Con. Me and my son drove out to Ohio, picked up Doug, and then drove on to Indianapolis for Gen Con. And it's quite the experience, right?
Yeah.
And then I think I was kind of going to those conventions. I forget when PAX Unplugged started.
So
Is
we were at the second one. So it'd be 2018 would have been the first year for PAX Unplugged.
And what was Gen Con 50? Do you remember?
Um, it would have been, I want to say 2015,
Yeah, it feels like
maybe
time's
16.
so weird now, right?
Because it's like it should have been Gen Con 54 this year. So I guess if you want to backwards the math on that one.
Okay, yeah. So I went to my experiences had been going to Gen Con and Origins, and then I went to PAX Unplugged the first year. It's local for us.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, and Ted had been he'd been going conventions all of his life, but he tended to go to small conventions. Like his biggest convention was the Steampunk World Fair that they would have in Edison, New Jersey, and it was like 4 hotels. So it's decent size.
Hmm.
Um, but then like he went to PAX Unplugged and he was like, "Oh wow, this is huge. This is so big." And I was like, this feels kind of small, right? Because my experience at that point was Origins and Gen Con, and they're like convention
60,000 people,
cities.
65,000 people at Gen Con. Yeah,
Yeah,
actually going to Gen Con is really where I got the idea of even taking my business to conventions. Like my first conventions were literally just like people would put up a convention locally and I just email
yeah.
them like, hey, you got space for a vendor? We'll come check it out. So that gave me the courage to start doing that kind of stuff. And we our first convention gig was at like a comic book convention here locally in like an expo center. I
Yeah.
don't think we sold anything. Not literally not one thing, like nothing. And it was like, well, all right, we'll try this again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's something to be said for uh, having the right audience.
Yep,
Um,
yeah. So comic book convention, not so great for selling RPG dials.
yeah, I don't
Uh,
actually like. I don't like. I went to Wizard World one year with my brother when we first started Nerdarchy, and I really don't like Comic Cons that much.
yeah, I haven't had. I mean, they're entertaining, but I haven't found them to be like kind of my niche of things I like. I like Dungeon Dragons. I like Warhammer 40,000.
Yeah,
I'm not like into like anime and pop culture, like trying to meet like people
but
from
that's
Buffy
it.
the
Like,
Vampire Slayer.
I don't feel like there's as much to do at like that
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
more of a
convention.
shopping thing.
The things that I want to do are more at a gaming convention.
Yep.
Um, so it's like,
Yeah. Now we go to Gen Con, we play 16, 18, 24 hours of Dungeons and Dragons,
yeah.
over the course of 3.5 days or something. And, it's
Have you tried vending there yet?
not at Gen Con. And really the only reason I haven't is
Because
because
it's
that's
hard to
my
get in.
convention to hang out.
Yeah.
It's not hard to get in. As a matter of fact, if you email Gen Con and say, hey, I would like to be a vendor there, there's a really good chance you will be because so many people cancel on Gen Con that their wait
Okay.
list, like they go through their wait list and then they start calling people who were like from previous years.
Oh,
Uh,
I thought that it was hard to actually even get a booth. It's
yeah,
very
I know. In
expensive.
my experience, and I asked 1 year. So the reason I know this, or why I can tell you that, is because I asked them 1 year to be a vendor there. They said submissions were too late. We'll put you on the wait list.
Yeah.
And then they got back to me like 3 months before Gen Con and said, hey, do you want to be a vendor? It costs this and this and this. And it wasn't like insanely amounts of money, but I already had all my tickets bought to go play games and stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, no, that's okay. This year we'll not do this vendoring thing. Let's leave Gen Con be, my weekend of gaming. And then they called me the next year and said that they had a space. and asked if I wanted to come in. So it was like I didn't even ask if I could be a vendor. They're just like on their list. Like,
Yeah.
hey, you asked if you wanted to be one 2 years ago. Do you want to be this year? Like, yeah, still.
Oh, I guess
It's huge. It'd be so exhausting to be a vendor there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like PAX Unplugged is a marathon.
Sucker your brothers into it. Be like, I got this great idea. It'll be totally new experience for us. We're gonna spend it in a 10x10 area, and we're gonna bond like we never bonded before.
Yeah, exactly. If you scratch something, I will know because we're gonna be hip to hip.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give you these 4 sentences to tell customers, and you're gonna say it so many times.
Yeah.
Even if your father walked up, you'd be like, just give him the spiel. Don't even look. So,
how to destroy your sibling relationships in 4 days.
Exactly.
So Sleepy Gaunt wants to know what your favorite chaos god is, and also why Papa Nurgle is the best.
So my favorite chaos god is Zinch, and Papa Nurgle is not the best. So sorry.
There you go. I asked.
We started out playing Epic, which was the little tiny, 6mm Marines. We started playing that, and I liked the idea of wizard warriors, so I started a Zinch army back then, and of course now I have a full 40k Zinch army.
And I don't. Which deity is that?
Zinch is the changer of ways, so he's the magic and schemes within schemes guy.
Okay.
Looks like a big bird, with multiple eyes, that kind of thing.
Oh, that sounds familiar. All my knowledge of Warhammer is from reading Gortrak and Felix novels, and it's been a while.
Yeah, I like reading the novels. I've read almost all of the Warhammer Horace series, which is I think up to like 60 books or something now. My favorite is the Eisenhorn series. If you wanted to read a 40k book that's not Space Marines shooting everything, the Eisenhorn series follows around an Inquisitor who has a team of like specialists, and they look for heresy in the underbelly of the cities. So that one's kind of cool. You get to see kind of 40k from the ground level instead of these giant battles.
Yeah, sounds cool.
It is cool.
There's so much good stuff out there to get into in so little time.
Yeah, I think it's Dan Abnett is the author of that series.
Okay. I guess Nathan Long is the person that I read a lot of. I believe I think they wrote a lot of the Gortrak and Felix. And then for a little while it was somebody else, and then Nathan Long came back. So you've exhausted all my knowledge of Warhammer.
Oh yeah,
and I know virtually nothing about.
I can do him. Like I've read all of R.A. Salvatore's stuff on him. I got a whole shelf dedicated to that. So
yeah, even the non D&D stuff, the non-Watts stuff.
I don't know. Honestly, it's just if R.A. Salvatore wrote it and it's got Drizzt in it, I've read it. So
oh yeah, these don't have Drizzt in it. So like, because the Demon Saga stuff is Corona World's really good.
Okay.
Spear Wielder trilogy is really good. Crimson Shadow, Echoes of the Fourth Magic. He's got a bunch of stuff that's not Forgotten Realms.
Okay, really cool. Good. Yeah, I'm into Drizzt more than RA, but yeah.
I'm in the RA more than Drizzt. So,
okay, cool.
We had him on, and I was talking to him. He was super cool.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about going to conventions is you run into people like him, and you get a chance to talk to him.
I was like, man, I was with you for about 20 or so books of Drizzt, and then I just kind of fell off.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of them.
Yes, there are a lot of them.
I got one.
Every few years, I kind of look and see, has he written any more? Oh, yeah, there's 3 more.
I have one upstairs. I don't remember which one it is. It's probably not even my book. It's probably Ted's book that I read like halfway through and just stopped reading.
You know what? I have to admit, I did that with the Wheel of Time series.
Yeah, I dropped off at like 9th or 10th.
Yeah, I got to book 7 and I was like, I can't do it anymore. I can't.
It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny too when I tell people that they're like, "How did you read so far and then stop?" I don't know.
Yeah, no. For me, it was like the 3rd book in a row where there's this really long story arc going on, and then all of a sudden some event happens in chapter 25, which gets wrapped up in like chapter 27, and then the book ends. Like the first 25 chapters are like some like giant story arc. I don't know where it's going, but then the last 2 chapters are this is what the book's about, I guess. It's like, no, I'm kind of, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah. I don't know. So it's like for me with the IRA stuff, like I always liked his non-Dritz characters better for whatever reason. Like for me, like Dritz after a while seemed to stop developing as
Yeah,
a
I agree
character.
with that. Actually, that's one of the things where, in the later books, at least in my opinion, the Driss character seems so established. It's really what's going on around him that's more interesting.
Yeah, and
The character stuff, right?
that's why I feel like if you delve into some of the other stuff that he does, you'll really enjoy that. It's really
yeah,
good.
yeah. In between my reading first edition modules converted to fifth edition,
Yeah.
yeah, I could put in some RA.
I tend to do audiobooks more nowadays than actually read.
Yeah, my drive to work is just too short. Like I only have like a 20-minute drive to work in the morning. It's just not enough time to like finish
Yeah.
stuff.
Have you considered moving further away and just
I'm
inconveniencing
thinking
yourself?
about just for my audiobook ability, I probably should just move another 40 minutes out so I can have a solid 2 hours of book reading every morning.
My commute's like 20 steps down to down the basement stairs. So.
Yeah. See, that's
not even less. So it's like when I have things that I'm doing and put it on, I do it. Yeah, Brian Smith says the Catterley as well. Yeah, the Clark Quintet was pretty good.
Yeah. For those people who are out there who have a small business or trying to start one, that there are no hours. You're just always working.
It all just blurs.
You can sit down and be like, today I'm going to make my website. And as soon as you're done with your website, you're like, oh man, now I got to go like set up stuff and like go, like there's always more to do.
Yeah. I'll do after these. I usually take a break because I'm tired of looking at a screen, and then I'll go go chill with the family for a while or do something else, and then come back and put in more hours. So it's always like it's all over the place. The wife will always ask, "Do you have work to do?" I'm like, "It's
yes,
no, yes." I mean, there's never not work to do.
There's never, yeah, exactly. It's not when you're on the customer, you're providing something to customer side of things. There's some time pressure in order to, like, hey, if somebody orders something from me, they probably want it, so I shouldn't sit on this. Like you want.
Yeah.
So there's always that too.
There is always that too. So we're coming up on the hour mark, or actually past the hour mark. Ted, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
As always, folks, in the description, and after it's not live anymore, pinned comment, you'll find links so you can go stalk Ted throughout the interwebs and go check out TNT Laserworks for sure. Final thoughts before we go?
So a real quick thing, I know that for the gamer community, I have done a bunch of charity work for the Nova Open Charitable Foundation. They're actually doing some raffles today for donations and things, but the gamer community out there has been amazing in supporting them in charities like breast cancer research, Fisher House Foundation, some of those things like that. So if you don't have some place that you feel that you're contributing to the world or to something bigger than yourself, please check out the Nova Open Charitable Foundation. It's a really great group of people who are into what we're into, who are a charity organization.
Awesome. Charities are good. We need them more than ever right now. With that, everyone, thanks for hanging out. Until next time, stay nerdy.